karoti pachalam bhangum langayate girim yat kripa tamham vande Shri Guru Deenutarine Paramananda Madhavam Chaitanya Ishwaram. Shri Prabhupada. Okay, so we already did first 26 shlokas from the Bhagavad Gita. We'll do 27th now. जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युर्जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युर्ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मात् अपरिहार्यर्थे तस्मात् अपरिहार्यर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि. Okay. Anyone available for reading the translation and purport for this one? Okay, I can read. Translation. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Purport. One has to take birth according to one's activities of life, and after finishing one term of activities, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, one is going through the cycle of birth and death after birth and death after another without liberation. This cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. The battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. Why should he be afraid of or aggrieved at the death of his relatives, since he was discharging his proper duty? He did not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. Okay, so this is a nice shloka, famous one. जातस्य हि ध्रुव मृत्युर ध्रुवम जन्म मृतस्य च तस्माद अपरिहार्यर्थे ना त्वं शोचितुम अर्हसि. So one who has taken birth is sure to die, and after death one takes birth. This is the cycle of birth and death. Janma Mrityu Chakra. This is cycle. So Krishna had previously told that how we are not this body, we are soul, and soul has a journey passing within this body from different stages of the body, boyhood, youth, old age, and then the soul goes out of this body. So the body was born and it dies. But then even those who feel that there is no soul and the body may be of chemicals, even from that standpoint, the chemical conditions changed and the body came into being and it is dead. In either case, Arjun should focus on not lamenting but doing his duty. That is the point. So in purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that this is a known fact. There is a saying, as sure as death, which means death is something which is inevitable and is bound to happen. And therefore, one must focus on the duty. Now, Prabhupada is saying, okay, somebody can give an argument that, oh, anyways, body has to come and die. So that's okay if I kill somebody or kill animals, slaughter animals, or do any kind of violence. At least it is, going to be for my benefit. So why not I do that? So Prabhupada is saying, no, that is not encouraged. So violence for other means, which is not, when violence is avoidable, we should avoid. But if it is unavoidable and it is needed for executing our duty, then it must be done. And that's why one of the four orders, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, one of the orders is Kshatriya, who are actually heroic and they are meant for fighting. Why fighting? For protection of the citizens. That is important. So if the citizens are not properly protected, they are being attacked by outside forces or forces within, then Kshatriyas have to keep law and order and make sure all the citizens are protected. In the next paragraph, Prabhupada is saying, Battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause is the duty of Kshatriya. So, same thing which we discussed. So, Arjun should not be afraid or aggrieved of death. He has to do his duty. And by avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, it's not going to benefit him and he can't even stop death. It's not that death will not come to his relatives, because it will sooner or later. So that is the idea here in this shloka. Anybody has any questions, any comments, any points to share? So one who has taken birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So as sure as death, death will come, duty has to continue. So focus on that, don't lament. Because they already tried everything to avoid the war before coming here. But Duryodhan was adamant about this. So they had no other option. Okay, we'll go to the next shloka. Please repeat. Avyaktaadini bhutani
अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि
vyaktamadhyani bharata
व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत
avyaktaani dhananyaiva
अव्यक्तानि
tatra ka paridevana
तत्र का परिदेवना.
Okay. Any volunteers who can read the translation and purport?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You want to read?
I'll read.
Please.
Yes. Translation. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So, what need is there for lamentation? Purport. Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of the soul and other not believing in the existence of the soul. There is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. Yet, even if, for argument's sake, we accept this atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. From this subtle state of non manifestation comes manifestation, just as from ether air is generated, from air fire is generated, from fire water is generated, and from water earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. Take, for example, a big skyscraper manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. The law of conservation of energy remains, but in course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That is the difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation either in the stage of manifestation or in unmanifestation? Somehow or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. Both at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested, and only in the middle they are manifested, and this does not make any real material difference. And if we accept the Vedic conclusion as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, that these material bodies are perishable in due course of time, antavanta ime deha, but that soul is eternal, nitya syokta saririnaha. Then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. Therefore, while lament the changing of the dress, the material body has no factual existence in the relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting in a chariot as a king. But when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self realization on the basis of the non existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in existence of the soul or does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation for loss of the body.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for reading. Okay, so in this particular shloka, it is mentioned the continuation of the previous thought that whoever was born is going to die. So Krishna is saying here that all created beings, there is a time when we actually see them coming. Like, for example, humans, there was a time when we were born, and that is when they were able to see us. So prior to that, we were not visible, or we were not seen, but then we had a beginning. So they there was a time when we manifested. So that is the interim form. Prior to that, we did not, let's say, for example, if I have a son, initially in the beginning, the sun was not there, right? I didn't have it. But then the sun was born, and similarly, we see things come into being. So the point here is that yes, some things are created, and then with time they will get annihilated. So that's true for all living entities. We are born and then we die. And that is something which Krishna is basically repeating in different ways to try to explain and make Arjun understand how this world functions and work. It is interesting that we have discussed this so many times in the last few sessions, but the world around us in general, you see so many different types of faiths or religion they exist, but this science is not really understood or even practiced. We are not talking about different ways of worshiping God. There's no mention of God right now, just mentioning about the body, about the consciousness, and how the consciousness is different from the body, and this is a science. Many times in some of the religions, they think that the body, which is already dead, they actually bury it, but some um, practitioners, they think that they will have, at the time of final, um, at the time at any time, sometime in future, when there will be a time which is designated, um, all these beings will get up from the grave, and then they will have what they call it, whatever punishment, or there'll be a decision making whether they'll go to heaven or hell. Like this, there are weird theories which people have, but it is very scientific to understand that the body is actually going to disintegrate. It'll go into different pieces. If it is buried, it will still disintegrate. If it is burnt, it is still going to disintegrate. So Arjun is being encouraged to focus on duty and not on lamenting. So Prabhupada in the purport is explaining about the different philosophers, and he's mentioning some of these were mentioned previously, that there are two types of philosophers: one believing in the existence soul, other not believing in the existence soul. There is no cause of lamentation in either case. So this which we had discussed last week, this one, that even if you don't believe in the soul, still the body comes into existence, and it actually at in future time it dies or disintegrates. So Prabhupada is saying non-believers in existence of soul are called atheist by followers of Vedic wisdom. So in Vedic culture, many time the word atheist is used by in the English language, the word is used by people to understand somebody not believing in God. But in the Vedic system, atheist is also a word which specifically is used to identify those people who do not believe in the knowledge of Vedas. So anybody who doesn't believe in the knowledge or the science of Vedas, like for example, existence of or the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, they will be called as atheist also in one way. So that is what Prabhupada is saying. So if somebody is not believing in the soul, then they may be atheist. And in both cases, whether you are atheist or you're not an atheist, you will actually agree that the body come into existence and at a future time the body disintegrates or die. And here Prabhupada is saying, even if for argument's sake we accept this atheistic theory, still there is no cause of lamentation. So there is no reason for Arjun to lament. And then it is explained here about the creation, how the creation happened, and different elements actually appeared. And this is in detail given in Srimad Bhagavatam in different chapters and different chapters and cantos. It is explained about the creation and how the material elements first came, and how from one element the another element actually came, and with different elements coming, that is how later this structures in the universe started to form. And this is how these are the gross elements which are talked about. This is how uh, all the forms are taking shape, or everything is being created. And then there is an example that once these elements are there in this world, like right now, we can see the example of a skyscraper. A skyscraper, we see there are different elements which were taken for constructing the big building. And then in future we see that the building maintains and then disintegrates. So this is uh, mentioned here for souls, living beings, but it is also applicable to such structures like skyscraper, that in the beginning there was no skyscraper, you brought the elements in the manifested state. In the interim means you are able to see the skyscraper now, but in future with whatever happens, we see that many of the buildings are disintegrated and they are gone. Like for example, 9/11 attacks happened in America, and these were the tallest structures, the twin towers, and those 100 years ago they were not there, and they manifested at some point, and then they annihilated. Um, they were annihilated when 9/11 attack happened, and now we see that they are not there. So this is just an example of how things come into being and they stay, and then they are not there and they get annihilated with time. So Arjuna is being encouraged to continue to focus on his duties. And then Prabhupada is explaining here, if we accept Vedic conclusion as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Antavanta ime deha nitya shokta sharirina, that the body is perishable but soul is eternal. So body is like the dress, and if we change dress, then that is not a reason for lamentation. It is similar uh, example. Basically an analogy is given to explain how the soul is changing bodies. And then Prabhupada is mentioning in a dream, what is happening in a dream. So he's saying that the soul is different from the body. So just like when you are dreaming, even though we are, having our soul here in the body, but the experience which the soul is having at that time is different. The soul is actually, sometimes we may have a dream that, oh, we are falling from the sky, from the building, top of a building, right? And then we suddenly wake up and we are like, oh, okay, I'm actually not falling. Or sometimes one may have a dream that a lion is there in front of you, or a tiger, and then we realize, oh, that's not the case. So like that, there may be different experiences which the soul may come across in a subtle manner. This basically means that even though we are in the body, or we are controlling the body, our experiences may not necessarily be restricted to the body, because soul is different from the body. Okay, so these are few thoughts on this particular shloka. Anybody would like to share anything or make any comment, or
One
have?
comment that comes to my mind, if I may share,
Please.
is that although the message is same, but there are so many modalities by using which um, the persuasion have has taken place in conversation between Krishna and Arjun for convincing him to do the karma that he is assigned to do.
Yes, yes, that is a very, very good observation. And that is um, i- that is relevant, because there are so many different type of people who are going to read the Bhagavad Gita or study the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna through Arjun is covering a huge majority of such people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to the next shloka. So this is the amazing shloka, or Ascharya shloka. So we'll read this. आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम्
आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेन
आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवद्
पश्यति कश्चित्
आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति
आश्चर्यवच्चन् मन्यः शृणोति
श्रुत्वापि एनं वेद न चैव कश्चित् श्रुत्वापि एनं वेद.
कृत्वापेन वेद न चैव कश्चित्.
Okay, any volunteers who would like to read translation and
Yes, I can read.
please.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Purport. Since Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principles of Upanishads, it is not surprising to also find in this passage in the Katha Upanishad.
I can read that.
Okay.
Shran Shranvayapi बाहुभिर्यो न लभ्या शण्वन्तोऽपि भावयं न विद्यो आश्चर्यो वक्ता कुशलो शालब्धा आश्चर्योशाज्ञात कुशालनुशिष्टाः.
The fact that the atomic is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark or spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matters for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand and question of self understanding. Even though it is a fact that without this self understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps they have no idea that one must think of the soul and thus make a solution to the material miseries. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes Hare Krishna. But sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the super soul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the super soul, the atomic soul, their respective functions and relationships, and all other major and minor details. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if somehow or other one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice either in this life or in previous ones before one is able to accept Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for reading. Okay, so a few things here. It's a little long paragraph. Purport. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So we read the shloka and the purport. So I would like to ask all of you if you want to share anything before I share. So what is being talked about here? We read in the purport a little bit, but anything you feel striking, you can share here. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing. So what is this all being talked about? Any thoughts, comments, reflections? You can share anything, I mean,
I
whatever.
can share
Yes, please.
from whatever that I have gathered.
Yes.
So soul is amazing because once, I mean, it thrives within the body, yet it's separate.
Okay.
It can be small, like a small particle as it's talking about, and yet it is so wide and broad. And so it's a sort of a, I don't know, it has a lot of amazing manifestations or something like that. That's beyond the capacity of minor understanding or mundane understanding, so to say.
Thank you. That was very nice. That was put in very nice words. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else would like to share any thoughts? What is this amazing verse or shloka talking so many aspects as being amazing? So in the purport, Prabhupada explains this, and he's saying that how the soul is so tiny But the same we've talked about how soul, the dimensions actually can't be even measured properly. But just to give an idea, it was said that the size is like 10,000th of the tip of the hair, and the soul is actually controlling a small ant or an amoeba or microorganisms, and the same soul is there in a body of a huge soul, a huge animal like a whale or an elephant or any uh, giraffe, huge big elephants. They are having tiny soul which is controlling them. It's not that, oh, whale is very big so maybe we'll need 3 4 souls. No, it's just that one tiny is able to actually do it. And like you rightly said, it's actually in the body but not the part of the body. That is it's the controller of the body. And then um, people are so engrossed in subject matters for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self understanding, even though it is fact that without this self understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. So basically, each and every person is looking for Ananda. Brahma Samhita, Brahma Sutra says Anandamayo Bhyasat, that everybody is looking for Ananda or happiness. In fact, any activity we are doing, generally the intention is that this will lead to something better, something more. We want to look forward to something. And we are always looking forward to happiness and bliss. So that is the desire. Every living entity is working on it, whether it is a small ant or amoeba or a cockroach or a human or a bigger animal, or even great personalities like demigods. They're all actually working in this direction. Some people are finding this in spiritual means. Some people are finding this in dharmic or religious means, and some people are trying to struggle for it in the material world, in material means. But everybody is looking for that. And in this struggle, actually, the soul is always hankering for happiness and love and bliss, but they are not able to figure out how to get that. And that's what's mentioned. They have no idea that one must think of the soul and thus make a solution of the material miseries. So they are not able to understand their own constitutional position, their nature. And what is their nature? They are actually not this body but spirit, soul. That is how Atma Gyan starts. That is the first step in knowledge of the self. And that is what Krishna is giving in this second chapter. So Prabhupada is explaining that some people are inclined to hear about soul, maybe attending lectures, may have good association, but because of ignorance and not proper guidance, they can get misguided, and they may not understand actual knowledge of the soul. But most people are not even attending such lectures, they are not even necessarily getting association. So for them, ignorance is the only thing which they have. So it is very difficult for people to understand and advance in this science. And there are some others who are able to understand to certain extent but are not able to understand further. There are so many details. Prabhupada here says that it is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the super soul, the atomic soul, their respective functions and relationships, and all other major and minor details. So, about the Lord and the living entity, one is super soul, one is soul. Understanding them both, understanding how their constitution is, how their interaction with material world is, what is the role of the time factor, what is the role of the whole prakriti or nature. So all these different aspects actually are there in Bhagavad Gita, which are not understood by people in general. So this is very amazing. And then Prabhupada is saying, but somehow or other, if one is able to understand the subject of the soul, then one's life is successful. So this is Ascharya, this is amazing. But if somebody is able to understand, that will be best, that will be the highest success. Then Prabhupada concludes in the last paragraph by saying the easiest process of understanding the subject matter of self is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita given by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna. And it will require some sacrifice, some penance, which some people may have already done in previous lives. So that will help them. And some people may have to do in this life. Certain things we have to do certain tapasya. And that way we will be able to understand. Certain things we have to understand by practical experience, and other things we will be able to catch just by reading and learning and understanding, because we have already had experiences for so many lifetimes, so they add on, and at the right time, at the right place, some right things click to us, and those which clicks to us and which are impressionable to us, we are able to have more practical application for them. And then Prabhupada says that before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what one has to do requires great deal of penance and sacrifice. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of a pure devotee and no other way. So all these things are needed on our part: penance, sacrifice, good association. But if we actually have a mercy of a pure devotee, then we can advance very fast. And we have seen this time and time again. Those who may not be very much fortunate to have this understanding, learning, but if they come in close contact with a pure devotee, they are able to advance. And there are so many examples in the scriptures, in the previous Acharya's life, and even in the modern days in the life of Srila Prabhupada, who traveled different places. He was simple gentleman in India who was living like an ordinary person, but he knew the science of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and his guru had given him instruction to spread it in English language. So he was working on that. But he was not seeing as much success in India. Finally, he went all the way to America. He had a boat in which he traveled for almost 30 days. It was not a boat, it was a cargo ship actually. It was a cargo ship in which he traveled for 30 days. He did not have a money, it was just arranged by one of his well wishers or students whom he was regularly requesting on this. And after a lot of requests, they agreed, because they were hesitant that you are almost 70 years old age and harsh conditions in America. You don't have anybody there who is going to necessarily be able to take proper care of you. So they were reluctant in letting him go through the journey. But Prabhupada said, I have to fulfill the mission of my guru. And for that, he traveled 30 days. He had two heart attacks on the way, and he had a stroke after coming to America. He was practically not even having any friends or family. He just had one person whom he had met, and his family was in America. They were okay with him coming to America and staying for a few days with them. That's it. And they were not even interested so much in the Bhagavad Gita initially. But he came to America, and after staying with them for a few days, he had to go on because he was not seeing more people who can learn Bhagavad Gita, and he wanted to give to the whole of America. So he was sometimes staying without any place. and it's a cold country here, so difficult to stay without a home or anything. But somehow or the other, he was chanting name of Krishna. He was doing some kirtan in a park, and he was giving classes on Bhagavad Gita, and few handful of people started to come, and slowly lots of people came, and these people were addicted to lot of wrong bad habits, like we say, drugs, intoxication, gambling, everything wrong they were doing. um, and Prabhupada was not judgmental. He was very broad-minded. He welcomed them. In fact, soon he was Krishna arranged a place for him where he would cook and he would distribute nice prasadam to all these new boys and girls who were coming. And even though they were completely into bad habits, but coming in touch with Srila Prabhupada, they transformed. Their life became pure. They used to hardly take bath or do anything clean, but they became so clean and so austere. They will wake up in the morning from 4 a.m. down to 10 p.m. They continue to do service to Krishna, to Prabhupada. So much so that just by seeing those people, more and more people started learning about Bhagavad Gita and Krishna, about vegetarianism, about not killing animals, about being nice to other people, about not doing intoxication, drugs, and unnecessary violence and all these things. And all these people actually transformed, and the whole movement kept spreading from US to Canada to Europe to Japan, and now to even Russia, Australia, America, China, and all these countries, even Africa, South America. We see all the countries having now Krishna temples, ISKCON temples. So this is all we can see how Krishna has his arrangement, that he makes his devotees as the carrier of Krishna's mercy. Krishna's mercy comes through his devotees. Just like if a father or a mother likes very much when their child is appreciated. If you see good things about the child, the parents feel very pleased. And if you treat the child very nicely, the parents are very pleased. But if you are telling parents good things about them, but if you treat the child badly, then the parents won't like it. So, similarly, a pure devotee of Krishna is like Krishna's obedient child. In one sense, we all are children of Krishna, but the most obedient child is the pure devotee of Krishna. And that most obedient child is very pleasing to Krishna. So, anybody who is nice to that child, Krishna is pleased. So, anybody nice to the pure devotee, Krishna is pleased. Anybody who is inimical or hateful of pure devotee, the pure devotee will not feel very much hate towards that person, but Krishna does not like that person. So, therefore, we have to be very respectful to other people in general. And here also we see that because Arjun was doing his duty, even though Krishna's pure devotee Arjun was fighting with another pure devotee Bhishma. Now both are Krishna's pure devotees, and Krishna loves both of them. But Krishna doesn't mind Arjun fighting with Bhishma or Bhishma fighting with Arjun, because both were doing their duties. And in that time, when Bhishma was shooting arrows to Arjun, many times those arrows were piercing the body of Krishna. But Krishna was very pleased even with those arrows. He was taking it as an offering of flower, which people offer to Krishna. Some pure devotee is offering flower to Krishna, and Bhishma is offering arrows to Krishna, and Krishna's body is getting hurt. But Krishna is very pleased because Bhishma is a pure devotee. So that is Krishna. It is very amazing to understand this science of the soul and the super soul. So these are few thoughts I can share from this particular shloka. Any questions, comments, any points, any discussion points anybody would like to bring up?
I have a clarification question.
Please.
Uh, so, if following the path of spirituality, divinity, Bhagavad Gita is joyful to the soul as proposed here, then why it is associated with the idea of sacrifice? Is it a sacrifice for few, or is it a recommended sacrifice to attain the fulfillment of the Bhagavad Gita sayings, or it is meaning something else in association with joyfulness in the soul to remain in this path and the sacrifice? So I'm trying to link both
Yeah.
of those ideas, but they contradict.
This is a good question. So let's understand this with an example. So we work in the hospital, so many times patients are very sick, right?
Mhm.
And when a patient is very sick, they don't have an appetite. They can't really eat anything, right? And then we see the patient and we say, you're going to get weak. You're not going to get proper nutrients, and your condition will not improve as much. But if you eat, your condition will improve with the treatment and stuff, and slowly you feel better. And as you feel better, you will actually be able to come out. Even if the patient say, even if I eat a gulab jamun, I am feeling it is, or a cake, I don't get the taste. I'm feeling it, it is not having the taste. I cannot eat. So we say, okay, this is actually gulab jamun or cake is very tasty, and people really like it and enjoy it. So he says, no, no, I don't enjoy it. I'm not feeling the taste. Yes, but right now you're sick. As you keep taking the food, as you keep following the prescriptions, the medications, the treatment, your sickness will slowly improve. And as your sickness improves, the same taste which you are feeling is bad right now, after a few days it will be better. Even in the scriptures, the example is given for certain patients who may have jaundice. And in jaundice also this happens. The taste, even the sweet things appear bad. So initially there is an austerity they have to do, that they have to keep taking. Even though if it tastes bitter, just keep taking the food. As your disease improves, then the same bitter taste actually changes to relishable sweet taste. And when you get that, then you are able to enjoy it. So similarly, right now when we are learning, understanding, and doing the spiritual process, initially we may not have the taste. When we don't have a taste, we don't feel like we need to do it or we want to do it. But as we keep doing it, and our disease improves, then the same thing which is right now appearing bitter or not so tasty will actually start appearing tasty. And when it start appearing tasty, then we experience the joy and the bliss. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So nice question. Thank you for asking that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for explanation.
Okay, great. Anybody else would like to ask any question or share any realizations, reflections? Okay, so we covered till shlok 29. So we did 27, 28, 29. We'll continue this next week. We'll do 30th shloka. We'll conclude for today. Thank you very much, everyone.